Hey, it's Sri here. In today's video, I'm going to talk you through whether separation can save a broken marriage. Now, before we dive in, I just want to let you know that, if you're struggling in your marriage and having a really difficult time and you feel isolated, alone, and just not really sure where to go next, then I'd love to be of service to you through my Authentic Relationship System training program. So all you need to do to see if you're a good fit for the program is just click below in the description section where it says book a call with me. Just click on that link below, choose a time that works for you, and then I'll contact you at the scheduled time. And we can understand where you are now, where you want to get to, and just how we can bridge that gap and really help you to have the marriage that you truly deserve. So make sure you hit the subscribe button below and click on the bell notification as well, so that every week when I publish my new videos, you get notified and you can learn all about how to improve your marriage, how to really become the very best version of yourself, and learn the most that you can about male psychology as well. Now, if we haven't met before, my name's Sri Rajasekar, and I help women from all over the world to be able to create extraordinary relationships, to help them to be able to reclaim their self-worth and their self-confidence, and to teach them specifically about male psychology so they can really understand how they can communicate in the best possible way with their partner or husband. Okay, so marital challenges are hard enough. But when your husband has basically said that he wants a separation with the intention of either divorce or just having a trial separation of some sort, it can create the most soul-destroying, crushing pain that you can imagine. And I totally understand that if you're watching this video, you're probably going through that right now. My heart goes out to you. And the reality is that, given your current circumstances, if you are potentially going through a separation, you're going to be highly emotional. And when we're highly emotional, we lack the clarity that we need in order to make the best decisions for our future, for our family, and so on. And so my goal and my intention for today's video is to really talk you through whether separation can help to save a broken marriage. Now, in the last 4 weeks, I've had literally 5 people message me personally and tell me that their husbands have wanted to make their marriages work again. And this is after we started working with each other about between 6 to 12 months before. And so I'm a real big believer that separation can actually create a lot of transformation. Now, I need to be clear here. It doesn't apply to every single marriage. But I really believe that when we take the right approach, we maximize our chances. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to talk you through 5 specific steps that my clients took in order to be able to create these massive shifts in their marriage and really get their husbands to realize, look, I made the silliest mistake in my life and I really want to work on this marriage. Now, the first step is to step back, assess, and educate. Now, what this means is that, as I said before, you're going to be in a highly emotional state, and that's perfectly normal. We're talking about being married for 10, 15, 20, sometimes 30 years. And that's a long time. And when you've been married for that long, doesn't matter what situation you're in, there's going to be a huge amount of emotional connection to that person. I always say it doesn't matter if it was good or bad, there's going to be an emotional connection nonetheless. And because of that emotional connection, you're going to be highly emotional about the circumstances. And so what I believe is that if you are going to go through a process of separation, you really need to just step back from that environment. You need to be able to spend some time on your own. You need to spend some time just getting out of the pressure cooker. Now, whether that means that you every weekend you go and you spend some time with your family, or, you just go and stay in another property of some sort, or stay with some friends, whatever. Get out of that environment for a short period of time. Now, if it is actually a proper separation that you're going through, that's fine. That gives you the perfect opportunity to be able to step back. Now, I know the temptation in these circumstances is to message, because we often think that, if we're not actually putting the time and energy into the marriage, if we're not communicating with the person regularly, that somehow that's going to result in that person distancing themselves and going and potentially being with someone else and so on. But in reality, I often find it actually operates in a very different way, because, men also feel that absence. They feel that pain. They feel, when they've been around this marriage for a long time, when they get away from that environment, that also hurts them a lot as well. And so you have to recognize that if you can actually get away from that environment a bit, and as I said, if you are moving out or whatever, that's actually a pretty good thing for you at this moment in time, to be able to just get out, to just relax a little bit and to give yourself the time to be able to be with your thoughts and emotions. And not only that, but to educate yourself. Now, what do I mean by this? Often what happens is when we've been in a marriage for a long time, because of the emotional connection, we don't see things with maybe the clarity that we need to. And I often find that, relationships or marriages were wonderful at the very beginning, and then as time's gone on and as kids have been introduced and all of that stuff, I find that the relationship starts to deteriorate. And you go from being passionately in love to the point at which maybe the intimacy starts to die down, to the point at which frustrations start to occur, to the point where you become roommates and so on. And then at that point where it becomes almost like roommates, then both parties are on a completely different path anyway. But what's always good is that if you can actually take some time to just step back and observe, how has the marriage actually unfolded over these years? If you can get that clarity and really see things for what they are, not worse than they are, but as they are and what they have been, then you can start to see, okay, well, this is where it started to play up a little bit. This is where we start to get into some bad habits and so on. And then maybe you've had some conversations in the past as well about some of the problems that you've had within the marriage, or maybe he might have explained why some of his needs aren't being met and so on. If you look at all of that, if you educate yourself around the entire marriage, then you're going to start to gain clarity around what has been going on, and also whether this is the right marriage fundamentally for you. But before you make that decision, you want to get to a place of clarity. You want to gain perspective and understanding of how the marriage has got to that particular point. Now, the great thing about taking this step as well is that whilst you're emotional, it also just removes a little bit of the emotion so that you can start to see things from both perspectives. Because when you're in pain, all you can see is your own pain. It's very difficult to see the other person's pain. And so when you actually really take some time to be able to step back, assess, and really educate yourself, then you understand, okay, this is why I'm in pain, but this is also why he's in pain as well. And when you understand both ends of the spectrum, when you understand both parties' perspective, then you can gain clarity and really understand what the right decision is moving forward to start with. Now, the second step that I take my clients through is to make sure that you do the necessary emotional healing. Now, what does that even mean? So I believe that in terms of healing, we have 4 levels. We've got physical, mental, emotional, and spiritual. Now, most people focus on the physical and the mental and the spiritual, but very few people focus on the emotional. And even when they think they're focusing on the emotional, they're not doing it in the right way. They're actually what we call suppressing their emotions. They think that, okay, I'll just change my thoughts and suddenly I'll feel better. Or I'll go and get my nails done, or I'll go and get my massages done, or I'll do a little bit of meditation and that's about it. But that's not true emotional healing. Emotional healing is when we can actually get to the very core of what's actually going on beneath the surface within our own selves. Because a lot of times people suppress their own emotions and their negative beliefs as well. So a good example of this is that, you find a woman who's in her marriage, and what happens is at the beginning she feels confident, she feels happy, she feels empowered, she feels in a really good place. And then over a period of time, that marriage starts to deteriorate. And then she starts to feel like she's not good enough, and she starts to feel like she's unworthy, and so on. And what happens is, because often a lot of people don't necessarily deal with those negative emotions and negative beliefs at the very core of it, what they do is they keep stuffing it down, they keep suppressing over and over and over. Because if you don't confront it, it'll continue to suppress. And if you keep suppressing it over and over and over, what happens is you're not actually doing any sort of healing at all. And you start to believe in those negative thoughts that you're actually focusing on regularly. And so many people do this. And look, I'm the same. I've done this plenty of times in the past. There's absolutely zero judgment. But I also know that once I really started to dive deep into my own emotional healing, my whole world changed. I started to notice really wonderful things occurring in my life. I started to feel just better and so much more calmer and so much more at peace with myself, regardless of what was going on around me. And what I found also was that when I did the healing, a lot of those physical circumstances started to change as well. So I really believe in the magic, and I really think of it as almost like a magic with emotional healing. When you do that, when you get to the depths of the wounds that are going on inside of you, then I promise you the transformation will be greater than anything you could have ever imagined. Now, some of you might be thinking, geez, that sounds a bit scary, and I promise you it really isn't. You know, it's actually done in a really safe way, and it's actually more enlightening and more enjoyable than you could possibly think, because you're going to have so many aha moments where you're just going to go, oh my goodness, I'm really noticing these transformations, or I'm starting to notice what's actually going on inside of me. And that means when you get to that place, you can really begin to empower yourself. So that true emotional healing, not the band-aid stuff, not the reprogramming of the mind and all of that stuff that goes on out there with other, therapists and coaches and things like that. It's really important to go nice and deep into your own emotional healing. That's where the transformation really begins to lie. Now, because there are so many levels to it, a simple way to get started is that when you feel an emotion that's coming up, really step into the present moment and connect in with your own body and connect in with the sensations in your body. If you can spend like an extended period of time on that, even just a few minutes to start with, just feeling it, you'll notice that feeling just starts to diminish. It starts to alleviate in terms of its pain. So just start off by doing that as a bare minimum. And once you start going through that process, you will notice that there are little things starting to pop up here and there in terms of moments when you feel lighter, you feel that the pain starts to reduce as well, and that is just going to be the start point of your transformation and your growth as a person. Now, just quickly in the comment section below, I just want you to write down one negative belief that you're holding on to that is impacting you in your marriage or has impacted you in your marriage in the past. Just quickly write it down and I'll respond to you as well. Now, the third step is to reclaim your identity. Now, this kind of ties into what I was talking about in the second step, which is when individuals have been on a difficult path for a long period of time. They started off the marriage feeling like they were enough, feeling like they were truly joyful and happy and empowered and so forth. And then as time has gone on, their sense of self and their self-worth and so on has started to diminish dramatically, to the point where they don't know who they are. They don't know, what it is that makes them tick anymore. They don't feel like they're enough, and they're constantly operating at what we call a lower vibration. And when you're operating at a lower vibration, then you're never going to be happy. You're never going to be joyful. But what we really need to recognize, if we can reclaim our sense of self, if we can connect back to who we were at the very beginning of the marriage, that kick-ass, empowered woman that truly knew that she could conquer the world and felt like she was enough and felt like she was worthy of love and attention and success and all of that good stuff. When you connect in back with that part of you, what happens is you're establishing this true identity. Now, just to be clear, we're not becoming a new person. We're just connecting back to who we really were when we first came into this world. We were pure love, we were pure spirit, but we learned fear. So, if we can actually establish this new identity, our most authentic version of ourselves, then it means that we're bringing our best version to the marriage. And you know what happens? When we start to do that, other people start to notice it, because life is often a mirror. And if we feel like we're not good enough, then I can guarantee you one thing, that other people and circumstances will reflect how you feel inside. So you need to reestablish your identity. You need to re-establish who you really are at the core of you. You are enough. You are worthy of love. You are successful, and you are deserving of all the joy and the happiness that you can ever imagine. Now, the fourth step that I take with my clients is to get clear on what are your core values. What is most important to you? Because you're going through a separation at this moment in time, kind of makes sense to kind of reassess things and just to understand, okay, what is it that you want? What is it that you desire? And how does your husband stack up or align with those core values that you have? You know, does he represent the kind of man that you truly want? If he does, fantastic. But you need to get clear on what your core values are. You know, do you want a man that's, you know, operating with complete integrity? Is integrity most important to you? You know, is honesty important to you? Is having someone who is just committed to your children and is focused on that? Or is it more important to have someone who's focused on their career and is completely committed to living their mission and their purpose? What is it that's most important to you? Get clear on those core values, because when you get clear on inside of you, then you're going to ensure that you make the best decisions for your future whilst you're going through this separation process. And the fifth step is to get clear and learn about male psychology. Now, I leave this at the very last step because I honestly believe that you have to do the necessary healing and the transformation and inner work first before you actually go down the path of getting really clear about male psychology. Now, I know the thing is that initially the temptation will be to think, okay, I've just got to figure out what is it that he needs? What is it that my husband needs at this moment in time? I need to understand male psychology. I need to understand more about his mind. And whilst that might be true in that moment, whilst you might want to learn about those things, I honestly believe that if you do the internal work first and you bring your best self, then you can do the last little 20%, which is understanding more about his mind, what it is that he needs, what it is that is driving him, what are his triggers, and so on. And if you can get clear around male psychology, because I'm a fundamental believer that men and women communicate with very different styles. You know, it's very, very common that so many marriages fall apart because communication styles completely clash. You know, one person says one thing and the other person interprets it very differently. That person says one thing, the other person says something completely differently, and so on. And there are so many challenges that exist when we think about communication, and in particular communication between the sexes. So if you can start to understand more about male psychology, you can get clear around what it is that men fundamentally need at the deepest level. You get clear on that and learn the specific nuances when it comes to male psychology and the communication skills required to communicate with the masculine energy, then you're going to make huge progress in terms of your transformation. Now, just to quickly recap, the 5 steps to save a broken marriage through separation are to firstly, step back, reassess, and educate. The second is to do your emotional healing work. The third is to reclaim your identity. The fourth is to align your core values. And the fifth is to ensure that you understand more about male psychology. Now, I know that these steps work. They create massive shifts in so many of my clients and have helped save marriages literally from the brink of divorce, even when they thought it was completely done. So I really believe in them, but I know that going through the steps, there's so many little intricacies in each step. And so in order to create the shifts that you need, you know, I'd love to be of service to you and help you through each of these steps. And the way I do that is through my Authentic Relationship System training, which is an incredible program. It's an 8-week training program where you get access to me at an in-depth level to be able to walk you through these individual steps, to be able to create proper shifts and proper transformation that will last a lifetime. And I don't mean that, I don't take that lightly in any particular way. I'm not trying to just create these little band-aid fixes for you. This is about long-term sustainable shifts and ones that absolutely work if you put the work in, and that is the key. So if you're ready to put the work in, if you're ready to really show up and give it your all and really commit to this process, I'd love to be of service to you. So all you need to do to see if you're a good fit, because I don't take on every single person, but to see if you're a good fit, just in the description section below, there is a link that says book a call with me. You'll speak to me individually and we can learn about where you are now, where you want to get to, how we can bridge that gap, and how we can actually walk you through these 5 steps to be able to create the transformation that you need in your marriage. I can't wait to be of service to you. Thank you so much for watching this video. I hope you enjoyed it. If you've liked it, make sure you hit the like button below. If you want to get more videos like this, make sure you hit the subscribe button. And if you want to let me know what your takeaways have been, just write them down in the comment section below, and I'll promise I'll respond back to you as well. And if you want to learn the 5 stresses that will destroy any marriage, make sure you hit this video above. And if you want to learn how to rebuild trust in your marriage after lies and cheating and deceit, click this video above. Thank you so much, and I'll talk to you in the next video.